Legendary's Monsterverse is a billion-dollar juggernaut at the box office, but it may have looked completely different if not for one much-maligned entry in Godzilla's lengthy filmography. The world's most famous monster has had a complicated history, as he has passed between the Japanese production company Toho and multiple American studios during his 70-year history on the big screen. While the majority of his movies have been produced by Toho, they have allowed American studios the opportunity to make Godzilla movies within the last 30 years, providing a new perspective on the atomic lizard. The ever-expanding Monsterverse from Legendary Studios, which combines Godzilla and other Toho monsters with Kong and original Kaiju created by Legendary, is by far the most successful non-Japanese version of Godzilla. However, that massive combined cinematic universe might not exist in its current state if not for the first American Godzilla movie. Inspired by ex-user at Kaiju Pictures, I examined how that movie's failure ultimately paved the way for the Monsterverse, and if it had been a success, the entire trajectory of the character of Godzilla could have been very different. The failure of Trista's Godzilla changed the trajectory of the Godzilla franchise. It significantly altered the franchise's timeline. TriStar's Godzilla had a lot going for it on paper, with Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, the team behind the record-breaking box office smash Independence Day, at the helm of the fairly well-funded and well-marketed blockbuster. It was also supposed to kick off a trilogy of Godzilla movies, and with tons of source material to draw on, there was plenty of reason for optimism. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out thanks to some brutal acting performances, an ill-conceived and heartless plot, and perhaps most importantly, a vast departure from Godzilla's well-known and beloved design. Toho originally agreed to put their Godzilla on the shelf for a 10-year hiatus following the definitive emotional endpoint that was 1995's Godzilla vs. Destroyer so that TriStar could pursue their trilogy. However, the failure of the original Godzilla eroded the studio's faith in the franchise, and the trilogy fell apart from there. As a result, Toho kickstarted a new slate of rapid-fire Godzilla adventures in what became known as the Millennium Era, beginning with Godzilla 2000, Millennium, which saw the beloved monster, with a fresh redesign, take on the hybrid mutant alien Augur. The Monsterverse might have never come together if Trista's Godzilla was good. It would have kicked off a trilogy. If Godzilla was the box office monster that it was supposed to be, and received even middling reviews as opposed to brutal ones, TriStar would likely have moved forward with their trilogy, and would have probably eaten up all of Toho's 10-year hiatus. Toho's slate could have looked very different with an additional 5 years of time to develop. They may have decided to forego suitmation in favor of more CGI-heavy adventures, for example. In theory, they wouldn't have had control over Godzilla for his 50th anniversary in 2004, so the iconic Kaiju cameo-loaded finale Godzilla, Final Wars may never have happened. It was the minds at Legendary that pushed for a holistic universe that included an array of monsters as opposed to just Godzilla. In an interview with SYFY, Monsterverse writer Max Borenstein noted that it was Legendary CEO Thomas Tull who first pushed for integrating Kong into Godzilla's world, with the ultimate endgame of having the two monsters face off. Obviously, the franchise has expanded far beyond that original concept, but without the influence of Legendary it's likely that the focus of TriStar, Sony's American Godzilla movies would have remained much less complex. What Legendary and Toho's Godzilla relationship looks like currently. The two companies have a constantly evolving agreement. The exact details of Toho's relationship with Legendary have been kept largely private, but there are some basic principles that are public knowledge. For example, it's understood that Toho licenses their characters on a case-by-case basis. It was big news at San Diego Comic-Con 2016 when Gareth Edwards revealed that Legendary had secured the rights to Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, who would of course go on to star alongside Godzilla in 2019's Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Likewise, Adam Wingard had a completely original monster ready for Godzilla x Kong if the rights to Mothra couldn't be secured. One key to Toho and Legendary's arrangement is that they do not have Godzilla movies competing against one another on a yearly basis. While Legendary's Monsterverse has been allowed to flourish, it hasn't done anything to stop Toho from producing two of the finest Godzilla movies ever in the years since Gareth Edwards' 2014 reboot. Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1 have received near-universal praise, and a sequel to Godzilla -1 is already in the works. However, those movies released in years that didn't include a Monsterverse release. It's anticipated that the agreement between Toho and Legendary will continue in this fashion moving forward. As the sequel to Godzilla x Kong has a March 2027 release date, audiences can likely expect the Godzilla -1 sequel sometime in 2028 or 2029, although I wouldn't rule out mid-late 2026 either. While many Godzilla fans have speculated that the next entry in the Monsterverse could introduce one of Toho's other big bads like Gigan, Destroyer, or Hedorah, it remains to be seen if Toho agrees to allow any of those monsters to touch down in American cinema.